are joined by Dr. Kristi Closser, Assistant Professor of Chemistry and Biochemistry. Kristi, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So one of the things we really wanted to talk about today was a pilot project with Apple Pencils in your chemistry classes. But before we get to that specifically, could you talk about just the range of courses that you teach and the students?
Yeah, so I teach a wide range of courses within chemistry. I teach general chemistry, which tends to be large intro classes, generally ranging from about 70 to 140 students has been the range there. And then I teach organic chemistry, primarily lecture, although also lab-based classes. And those are smaller classes. And those are the two courses I've done with Discover E so far. And then I also teach upper division classes. I've taught elective classes based on computational chemistry and also physical chemistry. So again, it's a wide range of freshmen to senior students and everything.
So you're seeing all the chemistry students coming at
yes.
some point.
I think the record is I've had one student in my class 4 times. So.
Wow.
For different classes, not being a repeat.
You completed the Discovery Faculty Learning Community Program in the 21-22 academic year, previous academic year. So what was that experience like for you?
Going through the program was fine. I learned a couple of very interesting things, particularly some of the particularly some of the pedagogical tools that were available for use with the Discovery program. Specifically, one of the programs that I learned about and have been using since is Nearpod, which is a way that I can interact with the students and get responses in class.
How did that experience lead to the Apple Pencil pilot project?
So one of the things that Nearpod allows you to do as an in-class response is collect drawings from students. So they can actually draw responses, which particularly for organic chemistry, this was really critical because it lets them draw out molecules and show how the electrons are moving through the use of arrows, which is a typical way of communicating that in the field. And so being able to collect those drawing responses was really useful for me to get feedback, but having students draw with their fingers was less than ideal. So having the Apple Pencils really provided sort of an equitable way for me to collect that feedback from students and have students have equal access to those resources.
So before that, you had some students who were doing it with their finger, maybe on their phone.
Right.
Or some students who may have had their own pencil and tablet and were able to do things very nicely, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would see a wide distribution of ability to respond to those kinds of questions. And it wasn't necessarily based on their understanding of the topic, but based on their access to technology. So having the access to the Apple Pencils has really leveled that playing field.
Is it something that the students came to you saying, I wish I had a better way to do this? Or was that just you noticing that there's got to be a better way to do this for everybody?
It was mainly me noticing that there was a distinct difference in the tablet usage between those that had their own pencils, Apple Pencils or equivalent. Some students do have like a Surface and stylus or whatever, but having that equivalent versus the students that didn't have that, there was a very big difference in terms of how they used the technology, how they interacted with it, and whether or not it was useful within the classes.
So what was the overall process like to get that started? You have to reach out to the hub? Do they bring the pencils each day to class? Or what was it like logistically?
Logistically, so I worked with the Discover E Center and they checked out the pencils to me. And then I had to create a system of checking them out to the students. So basically, that ended up being my responsibility because they didn't have a good way of checking them out and tracking them. So I sort of developed my own system where they sign them out at the beginning of the semester and then I collect them back at the end.
Did you find or hear from students that they would use them in other classes, or was it primarily just in year one? for your use case?
So this past semester, I had a smaller class, but in the fall, when I did it with my general chemistry course, which was the initial semester I had access to them, I did a survey at the end of the semester. And so I was actually able to get some direct feedback from students that they did use them in various courses, not just mine. And I think around 39% of them commented specifically on the fact that they were useful for either drawing chemical compounds or taking notes. So those were specific things that they highlighted as being useful. Based on the number of students that commented that it actually improved their note-taking skills, in the sense that they were able to better organize things, and they were just more likely to take notes on the tablet than they were on pencil and paper.
Yeah.
So there was a significant fraction that commented that was a change. And I think having that note-taking skill will benefit them long-term, for sure. And also several of the students commented that they enjoyed it so much, they're now going to save up to get their own.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
so yeah, it was, I think, they found it very useful.
So another thing that I saw that you commented in your previous cohort was a concern that you tried not to integrate too much technology just for the sake of technology, and try to focus, ideally to use, maybe one tool plus the homework system. Have you found that to be challenging for students, or even for yourself?
I found when you have like 5 or 6 different platforms that you're expecting students to interact with, that they tend to miss some of them, or it's just too much. So basically when I did Chem 1A this past fall, I focused on using Canvas and the Nearpod for getting in-class responses. And then I also had them using Google Docs. So there were several things, but those were sort of the primary focus. And then I also encouraged them to use a note-taking app, which was GoodNotes, was what I am familiar with. So
do you think the Apple Pencil project is something you would like to continue? Do you think it would be useful to expand it to other courses in the program, or
I think
primarily useful in that particular course?
I think anything that students need to freehand draw and take notes for, it's extremely useful. So I think within chemistry, most chemistry classes are going to be under that umbrella. I think math classes would also fall under that umbrella, and lots of other fields, biology, engineering, probably most the STEM classes, where you're just typing or taking sort of word notes. I think the keyboard is often better for some students in those situations, but anything that requires drawing. So I think that's a wide variety of fields.
You did talk about coming back to the in-person classroom after the pandemic, that when you were trying to use technology, you were finding students isolated in their devices, and you weren't getting, it seemed like, as I'm reading this, the classroom interaction. Do you still feel that? Do you have you found any way through that since then?
Yeah, I mean, it varies widely based on the class, has been my experience, how much the students are willing to engage with each other. Some classes, it's just easier. They're just more, the group is more outgoing. It's still somewhat of a struggle, I would say, to get them to interact in a beneficial way. So sometimes I found this past fall with the Gen Chem class, some of the groups were very much on task, and others would still wander all over the place. And I don't have a great solution for that yet. That's maybe maybe there is no great solution for that, but yeah. And then I found early morning classes, often I struggle to get students to interact with each other, which my organic class was fairly early this last semester. So even when I explicitly tell them to talk to each other, it sometimes fell flat. But
I was talking with one of the faculty from the School of Business, and she said that one of the things that she hears from industry partners as students are going out for internships is that the students struggle with the interpersonal communication the most. Answering the phone, a conversation in the hallway, that sort of things. That seems to be a generational challenge. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I've been trying to do in my general chemistry class is really explicitly use class time for group work and team assignments. So it does somewhat force them to engage in ways that they may not want to do, but is good for them.
Is that a general ed class, or is that a general chemistry for chemistry majors?
It's a general, it does fulfill the GE requirements. It's primarily STEM majors that take it.
Okay.
So it's not just chemistry, but biology, some engineering, and anyone who's pre-med.
Okay. So still a wide range.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I saw that you mentioned was trying to get students the opportunity to connect chemistry concepts to other areas of interest or exploration.
Yeah, so that was again through the group assignments that I had. Those were Google Doc based assignments. So I would have them again working on those during class time collaboratively. And then each group had to pick sort of an external topic. So that was anything ranging from medicine to culinary sciences to transportation, like fuels and those kinds of things. So basically they had to pick a topic at the beginning of the semester, and then throughout the semester there were questions that pertained to that topic explicitly that they needed to do some research on. And because it was really something that they chose, the idea is to give them some more agency over.
And to make those concepts concrete that sometimes can be abstract.
Yeah, and just get in the habit of connecting things, because I think it's very easy to go into a class and really just focus on that class and not realize that it does have broader implications.
That the boundaries that we put around classes don't exist in the real world.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Kristi, anything else that you want to share with anyone that may be watching or listening?
I think having the access to the technology has really benefited my students a lot, and having an equitable access to the stylus especially has made a big impact in terms of how much they use it and how useful it is.
Great. Thank you so much for taking the time this afternoon.
All right. Thank you.
To learn more, visit our website, academics.fresnostate.edu/ideas, or contact us to share your story. Ideas@mail.fresnostate.edu.